Alright guys, the time is now for a showdown between the Vampire Coast, who's going to be led by Ursula from The Little Mermaid, and the Greenskins, who are going to be led by the Baconator. So without further ado, let's jump right into this match and have some fun. So as far as the build goes, we're going to be going with the Summoner build using Celastra as well as a Vampire Fleet Captain. So Celastra does bring a lot of utility to the battlefield. Aside from her Lore of the Deep spells, she has an AoE slow with the Song of Enthrallment. Let's actually go ahead and take a look. So yeah, this is a 48% speed. It lowers melee attack, which is very good against the Greenskins. Oftentimes they're going to be bringing hordes of infantry, and be able to slow them down, reposition, or even just lower their melee attack is very powerful. So we do have that. We have Arcane Conduit and the Crab Summon. So that's pretty much it. On top of that, Celastra is a terror machine, so she does cause terror and does have a huge physical resist. So Wurzhog is a little bit scary against her because the FG of the Git does do a little bit of magic damage, but it's not going to be enough to like burst her down like spamming Spirit Leeches, for example. So if your opponent does bring Azag, it's going to be a little bit tough, but other than that, she's actually kind of tough to kill. So we do have Celastra here. She does have the Crab Summon. Vampire Fleet Captain, going to be using the Drowned Dead, which is basically just Raised Dead. And then on top of that, we do have the Invocation of Nehek. For the front line, we have a couple groups of the Zombie Pirate Deckhand mobs. These guys are just going to be the chaff, taking the massive beating that the Greenskin hordes are going to unleash. I mean, Greenskin infantry with that Wa in the beginning, even like Orc boys like hit like trucks with the Wa, which is pretty scary. But these guys are by far some of the best picks against the Greenskins, the Rotting Prometheans. So 120 armor, relatively good melee defense. These guys just take forever for Greenskins to mulch down. However, if they do have the Rusty Airs and a couple like healthy goblin firing lines shooting at these guys, they can go down somewhat quick. But for the most part, they're going to be one of your last troops standing, and they're very tough to kill for the Greenskins. Things like Orc Boar Boy Biggins, which are like true anti-large cav, really just aren't up to snuff to take these guys down, especially if you're saturating them with chaff and units like zombie deckhand mobs. In the back, we have two groups of the Depth Guard. So these guys are really solid against the Greenskins. Now, you don't want to use them as your frontline troop. You want to send them in after the zombies and the crabs take the initial blow. If you do that, you're going to kind of help get around their low melee defense. Their melee defense is only 31, and of course, they have a low model count. So you don't want them taking burst damage from the Greenskins. You send them in second, let them use the Hunger to sustain, and they can usually get at least 100 kills for you, which is very nice. On the flanks, we have a couple groups of doggos. We got some Scurvy Dogs here and some in Deep Vanguard back there, which are going to be going after the archers. We have one Colossus, which I think is so good against Greenskins. It can tear out infantry. If they do go with Black Orcs or heavier targets, like an Arachnarch Spider or Queen, this guy can put some hurt on them too. So I definitely think having one of these is very, very worth it. You can go with a Leviathan as well, but I do think the Colossus is a little better. Top of that, we have two deck droppers with the pistols. So we went a little bit cheaper. I only had like 900 gold left. So these guys only cost, I think, 450. They don't hit quite, well, let's see. Their missile damage is a little bit harder than the handgun variant, I think, but it just, of course, has much lower armor piercing. But I still think they're pretty good. They can harass the back line like Fellbats. You can shoot at the lightly armored infantry and get some value. And yeah, I think they're pretty solid. So that's it for my force. Pretty defensive little formation here for my opponent. Definitely a good army. He's got the Durkid Squigs. So these guys will actually lay a bit of a hurting on the Depth Guard if they can get a good surround there. Forest Goblin Spider Riders who are going to be riding dirty with the Goblin Big Boss. He does have Wurzhog the Baconator, who's going to be scary here for sure. He has a lot of magic damage. Although I'm surprised he doesn't do magic in melee. I feel like, that like staff he has would do magic damage, but that would make him so good against Celastra for sure. So the front line's going to be Orc Boys. Secondary line's going to be Biggins, who did get a buff to their anti-large, so definitely has some tools to deal with my large threats. But I really think the Goblin firing line is a more optimal way. So he does have Orc Air Boys here, the Rusty Airs, and I think that's it. So just two firing Goblins. And it looks like the Warlords Boys, as well as the 8-peak Loonies, are going to be coming around the flank here to gank my forces. And he does have more Forest Goblin Spider Riders. So guys, let's get the show on the road. So right now, I'm going to be advancing, just kind of perching up on this hill, but I will be engaging him. I'm not going to be sitting here and just waiting. The Colossus here in the meantime is going to be taking shots at the Biggins, if I'm not mistaken. So the first shot's coming in, definitely doing some okay damage. Takes out about 6 models, does some decent HP work on those guys. My Fellbats, I decided to fly over and see if I could get some free pokes on the Durkid Squigs, but I then discovered that he had Goblin Archers who are going to be doing some work. So the crabs are going to be charging in. The Depth Guard are going to be following up. You can see I'm pulling them back to make sure they go behind the formation. And here comes the angry crabs. They're going to be spanking some of these Orc Boys. These crabs, they have pretty good weapon strength, and Orc Boys lack armor piercing, and of course their stats are really going to struggle against pretty much everything that these crabs bring to the table. So frontline engagement's underway. I want to keep it really high and tight. I do use the Strong of Enthrallment a little bit early, but it does hit 2 Orc Boys and a couple of these Skulkers and things like that, and also it hits everything that comes in the radius, which is very useful. In the meantime, the Colossus is going to continue shooting. The Depth Guard, I realized that there was a weak pocket here, so I sent them saturated on top of some of these standard, deckhand mobs. And actually got some 50 kills, like super quick. And now we're going to be pushing back into the Orc Air Boys down there. Hopefully it'll be good. And in the center, I noticed he was pouring a ton of resources, so I do summon the damn Knight Errants in the back behind his troops. And I'm going to be charging them into the Rusty Airs right here. I really need to put those guys down. So these Ethereal Knights, definitely so solid in matchups like this, in which they have like a really high value missile piece. like the Rusty Errors, that is really kind of a staple for them winning, right? You can basically just send in the Knight Errants and they can usually do pretty well. But he does respond with a Smoke Bomb super quick, so very well played to my opponent there. He snared them down and he has a lot of troops in reserve. The Dirkit Squigs and some of these other guys. And ooh, look at that. He used that AoE from Warzog, the Brainbuster, which actually really chunked those guys down. So really good play so far. On top of that, I'm going to be summoning some deckhand mobs back here, actually Prometheans from Solastra. So just trying to do everything I can to shut down the Rusty Errors. Although I still am taking fire from Orc Air Boys, who do have, decent armor piercing as far as Greenskin missiles go. So some of the deckhand mobs here to start fighting these guys. Orc Air Boys probably can fight them back in melee pretty well, but it's still not the best situation. And also the Depth Guard are pushing up the hill, and they're going to be going after them. The Scurvy Dogs in the back, I was actually able to kill my opponent's caster. So if you look over here, he did have a secondary caster. I think this is where he went. Yeah, there he is. There's a little goblin. He needed to take 2 dogs with him, but he had a Night Goblin Shaman hiding as a mana battery, but I discovered him with the doggos, and the doggos were able to feast. Now they're going to be running up into the back line, but very good response from my opponent. Forest Goblin Spider Riders and the Goblin Big Boss peel back to fend me off, so I do pull back. I didn't want to give him that booty for free, so I'm going to be running to the corner trying to lure him out there and see if I can drag him away from the main fight. So up here on the pits, the Colossus is still shooting happily. The Crabs are fighting Biggins, which isn't the best trade. Now that the Biggins are in there kind of grinding a little bit, I'm starting to actually take a little bit of damage. Solastra's in pretty good shape, and she does cause terror, of course, so as the Biggins get more and more beat up, they're going to be more susceptible to the terror ride, which is going to be very nice. That's why one of the reasons why Solastra is so good, because she's dirt cheap, she causes terror, she has really good free spells in the Song of Enthrallment, as well as the Damn Knight Errants or the Ghost of the Past, and yeah, she definitely brings a lot to the table. So Bounce of Power is slightly in my favor here. You can see we're able to get the Orc Arrow Boys in the back using the Deck Droppers. Again, tons of utility from these guys. Deck Droppers are very powerful units. In the back, you can see the Depth Guard and some of the zombies are hunting the archers, just trying everything I can to get rid of these guys. And I did also overcast my Drowned Dead. And I was able to summon some gunnery mobs who are just shooting up these nasty skulkers, and definitely quite happy about that situation. Looks like a breath attack coming in from the Greenskins. Unfortunately, I just barely moved my Depth Guard past it. Definitely could have done some work if it didn't. And yeah, I'm just going to be engaging, trying to get Warzog right here. I do have a little bit of a surround with the zombies, and the Depth Guard should be able to do some decent damage against him because his defensive stats aren't insane. So over here we have pretty much a rout of the Greenskin forces, but they still have somewhat healthy numbers kind of coming back here. Forest Goblin Spider Riders, the Moon Howlers are in pretty good shape here, so they're going to be able to re-engage. My Summon Crabs are almost gone, so they were giving me a bit of a false inflation on the Bounce of Power. And yes, the Greenskins are kind of scattered in all sorts of directions, but this is actually a lot of firepower here. We have 38 Orc Arrow Boys, 45 Rusty Arrows, so that's still some decent power. And on this side of the battlefield, you can see there's a lot of Night Goblins coming in who are actually just cleaning up some chaff in the back line. And one of them is actually unbreakable, and the other one does have some nice armor sundering against the Crabby Boys, so it should be a little bit spooky there. But anyways, we are able to rout off the Orc Boys and most of the Orc Biggins, so that's a very, very good situation for me. But again, Bounce of Power still in my favor a little bit, but the battle is much closer than it looks. So here we do have some zombie-powered deckhand mobs trying to shamble to help their buddies, and it looks like my Deck Droppers are taking a bit of a beating from his archers, so at this point I decided to send them in. Probably a little bit of a bad decision. I probably should have just pulled them back or like gone over here and picked off some of these routing units, but I decided to dive in thinking maybe I could get a relatively quick rout on the Rusty Arrows here, but those guys are they're holding up. They got that rock hard zero leadership, and some of these Orc Boys could turn around and help them, but the Orc Arrow Boys, again, they do have 34 weapon strength and they hit pretty hard. You can see he's actually able to beat down my Deck Droppers pretty badly there. So the Bounce Power is actually creeping back towards the middle. My opponent clawing back into the game. We do have a little pocket of strength here, but a very nice Brainbuster from my opponent. And yeah, he's got a bit of a surround, so my Vampire Fleet Captain is separated from my main army here. I overextended a little bit, and I do have some Depth Guards still fighting, and they're probably just a ton of kills. 90 kills right now, definitely not bad, but yeah, they're fighting to the bitter end, and thankfully I did have these guys who shambled over the long war, just marching across the battlefield here, and I am able to summon some more Drowned Dead. So I think I have one more summon after this, and it's going to be really important. I need these guys, because if I didn't have this summon right now, man, my Vampire Fleet Captain would just get beaten down by this angry Greenskin horde. On this side of the battlefield, I decided to send the Colossus over. I figured that, I really wanted to finish off his leadership. Solastra's also on quite a journey over to see if she can help out, maybe terror out some of these guys, AoE debuff them. I definitely don't have enough for another Crab summon, so that's probably not going to happen. But we do finish off this battle here. There's just 18 Rusty Arrows, so anytime you guys are playing against unbreakable units, always make sure to check that. Sometimes there'll be only 10 of them, right? Like half your army will be fighting them, because you're going to look, you're going to see the unit flag, be like, okay, I'm still fighting here, but I realized I don't need all these troops fighting here. I just left my deckhand mobs and some of my other troops, but when I saw this big pocket of Greenskins coming back in, I was like, oh, it's time to re-engage. So the Depth Guard are going to be charging into the Greenskins, the Biggins coming in, and these guys are ready for round 2. They hit incredibly hard, even though they are meant against large, well, not necessarily meant. They're very well rounded. They can do well against infantry as well. Over here, my Colossus on a little bit of a dicey situation. The Moon Howlers have engaged. Colossus, of course, should be able to kill them. He's peg-legging some of them, which is always fun. So Solastra is going to be finishing off the last of the Dirkit Swig Hoppers, but a very nice effigy coming in from my opponent. Now check out the damage. Celestra is definitely taking some work here, and I mean, she has a very low HP pool. Warzog's coming in on the bacon, so as he comes in, I use the Song of Enthrallment to lower his melee attack and his speed, but he still gets that sweet and juicy charge. All of a sudden, Celostra's taking a lot of work. That balance of power is teetering back towards the middle. Things are getting a little bit spooky for sure, but we do win this engagement against the Greenskin Chaff here. So the deckhand mobs and the Vampire Fleet Captain are coming in, so hopefully they can help out a little bit. And Celestra is able to kind of squeak away a little bit, but I figured the Forest Goblins could chase me, so I might as well engage. And the Colossus is actually taking a ton of damage from the rallying Rusty Arrows here, and not the Goblins, but the Orc Air Boys. So man, just a little bit of a tough situation here as we do try and cap Warzog. Very, very close game. Over here you can see the crabs. These guys are just solid. Just crab slapping these Orc Boys here. Should be able to finish them off. And it looks like the rallying Greenskins here were able to finish off a couple of my infantry and did some decent damage against my depth guard, but for the most part, I'm able to have some high-value troops surviving. These guys have 261 rock-hard kills on those depth guards. They're very solid as like a supporting infantry unit. Over here, my Vampire Fleet Captain is trying to get over to Celestra to help out. The Colossus and her are both getting really beat up. She's down to 1,000 HP, which is so low. I mean, if Warzog, for example, were able to get like a magic missile attack on her, that would just be like rough. But I did have just barely enough Winds of Magic for one more Invocation of Heck, which when you use it on ethereal units is so cost effective. So Celestra gets brought back up to, let's see what her HP pool is. Yeah, no, that's the Colossus. Let's go ahead and see if we can get Celestra in there. Yeah, it's a decent amount, so we'll take a look in a moment. But anyways, the Baconator is charging in, the Moonhowler's charging in, the Arrow Boys up on the high ground are shooting. But thankfully, my summon deckhand mobs are finally able to waddle after these guys. Just look at them shambling. And I feel like they wouldn't be able to go anywhere. Like if their peg legs just like got stuck in the snow, I feel like they would just like sink straight in. But the crabs are able to get up on the high ground, and finally we disrupt that missile line, which is going to take the pressure off the Colossus, which is almost crumbling here. And it looks like we might have the Greenskins where we finally want them. The Baconator has just been causing so many problems here, just cycle charging back and forth, using his witchcraft and just all of his magic. And yeah, it's been a tough one for sure. So the Death Guard here, 277 kills. I'm just going to be using the Necrophect Colossus to blast Warzog right now, try and put him out of his misery here. And Celestra Direfin is going to be using the Song of Enthrallment. And you know, as far as her name goes, I remember when I looked at her in the campaign, she says it like Celestra Direfon or like something like that. I don't know. Somebody could explain that. It seems like it doesn't seem like it would be pronounced that way, but maybe it's like a Bretonnian thing, or I don't know, some other stuff. Anyways, the Colossus takes another massive charge there from Warzog. My opponent doing a great job just using that bacon to its maximum effect. And the Colossus here down to about 1,700 HP. And but it looks like we're going to get the Goblin Big Boss. He's terrified. Celestra, of course, doing a great job. And she is up to 1,900 HP, so she did heal a lot from that invocation. And from here, the Greenskins, I don't think they have enough stopping power. They have the Orc Biggins here. Over here, yeah, they have a couple more. But the Colossus is alive. I have two groups of the Prometheans who have 8 and 7 models, respectively, which is still a lot, right? And a couple group of Depth Guard here who have 30 models. So that's going to be all she wrote. So really well played my opponent. That was an incredibly fun matchup for sure. And yeah, the Baconator definitely putting some serious pressure on Mrs. Direfon there. That was a little bit scary, but I do think the build worked out pretty well. The supporting Depth Guard were able to really deal with the chaff, and if Greenskins do go super wide, which is typically going to be the way they go, I think, in this matchup, the Depth Guard are just going to give them the business for sure, like just rock hard. So 293, 94, he did a pretty good job taking out the other one. The crabs are really solid as well. It's tough for most Greenskin infantry. I'd actually like to test and see like how Black Orcs do against Rotting Prometheans. I think that would be something that would be pretty interesting to see. But the deck droppers were good. Colossus, just Old Faithful. Although maybe the Leviathan would have been a little bit more. No, I think having that missile pressure is really valuable. Like when Warzog was able to run and cycle charge, at least I was able to do some damage on the retreat. So for my opponent's army, I honestly like it a lot. Warzog is a good pick. He had a nice little leadership kit. He had a mana battery. Thankfully, I was able to discover that. Maybe if I hadn't, right, he would have had enough Winds of Magic to finish off Celestra. The Orc Boys, they got shields, good for taking any fire if I do go with a missile build. The Goblins, of course, very annoying, especially the unbreakable ones. And yeah, it was just a good army. It was well-rounded. He had mobility. And honestly, there was a couple moments at which the game could have gone either way. So very well played to my opponent, Vicious Atsuma. Look forward to running into you again on ladder. And hopefully you guys enjoyed this Vampire Coast vs. Greenskin showdown. Have an excellent night, guys, and take care.